Hey there, welcome to Common Truth. So today this is episode 3 of season 1 of the Common Truth podcast, and I'll be talking about something that I wrote about quite a long time ago, around a month ago, and it talks about the success of humility and why it should be pursued within our lives. So as you might know, humility as like a straightforward concept, it's just like the ability to show gratitude towards all the things that helped your success and not have too much pride in yourself. It's knowing what you're good at, it's knowing what you're bad at, and then just acknowledging those things and not being very openly boastful, and just accepting the things that you might know yourself internally. And because of this, it may seem obvious that humility is very successful. Of course, it's something that should be pursued, and none of us really think that boasting is the right way to go. If you're just asking someone the straightforward question, if is bragging good or not, then everyone will say no. However, very few people actually pursue humility. If you actually think about it, just like think in your brain for a second, who actually pursues humility and who actually does it to a great extent? Now, I don't want you to say yourself, because the chances are that it's just a control bias or like self-affirmation bias that's talking. However, I want you to try and think of someone else and think of them in when they're like pursuing their daily activity. Do their behavior indicate the fact that they think that they know everything, or do they think that they know like what they're limited at? This is just reflected in the Dunning-Kruger effect, because we think we're a lot higher than we generally are, even though experts would know, like people who are truly reflecting upon themselves know where they stand in society. They know where they place in this kind of spiritual hierarchy in the world, and they know what they need to improve on, what they need to still do, and regardless of if they ever pursue that and improve those parts of themselves, they at least are aware of the fact that they lack in some specific places, whilst they think that they're overly good in other places. And this just puts you on the chart of the Dunning-Kruger effect, and you might see this because some people are overly boastful when their capability is actually quite low, and other people generally are recognized or perceived to be very good at something, very great at something. However, they themselves take a step down on that ladder just to be like, oh yeah, I know what I need to improve on, and I'm not actually that good. Especially if they've seen other people better than them who've done something or like taught them, then they've definitely been indulged in that more than other people might have. Let's say that it all depends on who you keep around you, because let's say there's a group around you where everyone's doing better than you. You might know your place in that thing. Even if you're in the top, like let's say you're participating in the Math Olympiad, International Math Olympiad, and you're just like one person out of the 20 people who are competing in International Math Olympiad. Maybe the other 19 people might be ahead of you in math, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you suck at math, even though you might feel that way sometimes, because those other people who are surrounding you in that domain are just a higher level, however, more skilled. However, that doesn't justify you thinking that you're lower level in comparison to everyone else in the world. And sometimes other people might realize this fact, and a lot of people just gratify this fact, because our human nature dictates that we really want to just always be seen on the top. Even internally, it just helps, because our subconscious just tries to make us think that we're on top all the time, because that's just what helps appease our consciousness, because we just want to drive forward. However, that's not what like the subconscious wants to do. Our subconscious, just think of it kind of like, it's kind of lazily, it's making excuses, and it's just feeding those excuses to our brain. And at one point, our brain is just like, our conscious mind is just getting fed up of those excuses and just leaving it to be. So that's just kind of like our actions. When we're pursuing our actions, if we think that we're best at everything, we become complacent, and that's precisely the reason why we lose motivation. If you listen to episode 1, I'll link it down below, you can listen to episode 1. That talks all about motivation, and one part that I mentioned was that if you're very complacent about everything, then of course you're just gonna lose motivation eventually, because the fact that motivation it just comes and goes. It's not something it's conditional on some unknown entity. It's not something that we have control over ourselves. And because of this fact, I think it's very important to consider that the reason we become complacent is because of ourselves. We ourselves are just feeding and of course we can't control our subconscious mind. It's the part that controls all our involuntary actions. It's kind of like a closed cage that just that has like something that goes out but nothing comes back in. It's just like it's like a one-way door. And yeah, because of this, we can't really like tell our subconscious mind, no, we really want to just think and be humble all the time. However, we can do this through the strategy of fake it till you make it. You might have heard of this before, and you might have just disregarded it as a random piece of like cliche or like nonsense that people just spread around. But actually, fake it till you make it is a very good strategy, because if you just replicate something, or you embody it, then even if you're not actually fulfilling it to the greatest extent that you have right now, then eventually you'll probably just build a habit. Once you build a habit, it just becomes natural for you. It's not something that's forced or in any way. Yeah, so let's say that 100 days. This is way more than it actually takes to build a habit, though. Science says 21 days. I'd advocate at least like a month, because even after 21 days, if you leave it, then it's still gonna just dissipate over time. However, I'd say let's just for a hypothetical example, let's say 100 days. Let's say 100 days that you keep on going, and you're just every day you're just trying to give 3 people just a compliment. And then eventually, even though in the beginning you might be forced, because not everyone likes to give compliments. Some people just give fake compliments just for the sake of manipulating others. And yeah, but like, yeah, whatever. Let's just say you give 3 compliments. They can be fake, they can be real, whatever you want. So yeah, let's say 3 compliments a day. Eventually, at some point, you might actually start to feel good about others, even though you might be the most hated man in the world. Every single person around you might hate you. But then eventually, by the end of those 100 days, the people that you give compliments to aren't going to think of you in the same way, and you aren't going to think of them in the same way either. So yeah, let's say that you hated everyone else. Everyone hated you, you hated everyone else. Okay? In this hypothetical example. However, by the end of the thing, not only will not other people not hate you as well, you might not hate everyone else, even though it's not anything from your doing. Even though from their perceptions, they don't know if it's fake or real, and you might even know it's fake. Even knowing that piece of information doesn't stop you from eventually changing your mind, because it's not something that we have control over. It's just once we convince our minds, and once we just repeatedly continue doing an action, then we just become accustomed to that action, and we just start to actually feel like it's true. That's why if you just repeat a lie and constantly lie, then eventually that actually might start happening, coming true. It's not actually that event happened, it's just that's how you recall it. That's what you think about. You don't actually believe that's what you actually got. So let's say you just tell you got like a 50% on a test or something, and then you just tell everyone you got 100%. Eventually, if you ask someone if they ask you 5 years later, you're just gonna say 100%. You're not gonna remember that you actually got 50%, and that's just from the truth, because of the fact that you just solidified it within yourself. So even if you took a lie detector test, it would just stay 100%, because you're confident with that, and that's what you think you know. However, it's false memory. And yeah, I actually wrote an article about that too, so if you want to read, I'll go and link that down below in the comments, in the pinned comment. So yeah, thank you. Anyways, yeah, that's basically it for this. I think it's very important for you to be humble, because being humble just demonstrates that you're acknowledging what your weaknesses are, and acknowledging those who helped you attain something. So yeah, if you're being humble, you're actually showing gratitude, you're showing appreciation, knowing where you stand right now, because it's not like, knowing where you stand means that you will always be at the bottom of the hierarchy. Knowing where you stand, you can say that you're yourself in the middle. However, it's important to properly assess yourself and reflect and take time to think, because if you just say, oh yeah, I'm at the top, I'm at the bottom, yeah, that's just the quick assumptions. Of course, you might think so like that. However, if you're not reflecting, if you're not truly reflecting on what you see, what you observe, then you just become complacent again. You just become lazy, and then you eventually just waste away. Like, it's estivation. So yeah, innovation. Anyway, yeah, I just think it's very important to be humble, and it's just something that we need to carry on in our lives, because eventually at the end of the day, how our success comes is other people's perception of us. Even though it doesn't seem true, you can have all the technical knowledge in the world, but if you're just the worst person in terms of mentality, then eventually you just find some trouble, and nothing will go the way that you want it to. So yeah, in addition to being just like in a good mental headset, you need to also just be emotionally good and be able to just communicate with others in a way that's not like toxic or anything. So yeah, humility is very just successful. So I would recommend that you actually think about this. It's not something that can come within one day and they'll go, or something like, oh yeah, I'm humble now. It's not something that changes like that. It actually takes a bit of effort for you to work on, but it's something that you can do in the background. It doesn't have to be something that you actually like, oh, you have to put 1 hour every day or 2 hours every day. It's not like something like standard like that. that. It's actually just an essence that just comes to us as we reflect and think more about it and actually try and actively practice strategies that are going to help aid in like it coming to us. So yeah, thank you for listening to this. You can also listen to it on Spotify. You can download it on Spotify if you want to listen to it. And yeah, I'll leave that in the description. The comments, in the pinned comment. So yeah, if you want to read the article that I wrote about this quite a long time ago, I'll also link that down below. So yeah, thank you for listening to the Common Truth podcast. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.